Okay, this is a quick look at how to write tests for the Ocaml coursework in the same style that they have. Also how to, for instance, they have things where they have fail not implemented, just replace that and write similarly to what I am doing here. So we have Ocaml Playground, which is this. Oh, okay. Oh well. It's here. This is Ocaml Playground. This is similar to complexnumbers.pl, or any of the other ones. This is where we would be writing our code. And here we have Ocaml Playground 2. Ocaml Playground tests. This is our test file, so this would be like complex numbers tests. Down in the bottom left, we have a shell. This is running bash. My prompt looks a bit excessive, but you can basically ignore that and just treat it like bash. This is where we would be running our Dune tests, run test profile release bit. And bottom right, here we go. This is basically just saying what keys and what commands I'm pressing in case I lose you at any point. I'll be trying to work slowly, but I may do something odd every once in a while that will be difficult to follow. And this is just in case that happens. Also, we'll try to get this done quickly. Okay, so we have a command here, which is let add single quote, takes in 2 arguments, and it evaluates it as the expression of one argument plus the other argument. We have some typing for this, but it's done implicitly because it's obviously an int, takes in an int, returns an int. So if we look at our test file, we can see some tests that have been pre-written to do this. So we have let add test 1, which basically asserts that adding 0 and 0 will return 0. That's fairly important to assert for something that's adding something. And here is where we will be writing all of our unit tests in this area here, basically. This unit tests list here, this is listing all the unit tests and a short label here. And we'll get back to what we do with unit tests later. Here we have property tests. This is fairly big for the coursework. So we have some generator, and this generates basically something of some form. So in the tests, a lot you'll see something like where something where you're getting basically a pair, and then this thing here would be pair, or more accurately small int. So we would be generating a pair of small ints using QCheck, quick check. So this small int here is basically a placeholder for some arbitrary integer that is of type small int. And we use this later on here, where we're generating like 10,000 tests or something absurd, and we're just making sure that it all works for that. But let's undo what I just did here. Okay. So this is our generators. For instance, in complex numbers, we have a complex number generator, which is basically just generating a tuple of two small integers, and that is our type of complex number. So this is just a helper for when we start actually doing our property tests. Our pretty printers are here. This is to give us some nicer outputs when we get fails on our tests. So we can see like how it's failing, basically, I think. And now we are defining our property tests. So this is a property test. It has this name here, add associate. It creates 10,000 of it. It's using the pretty print show int3 function, which we defined here. And it is generating a triple of type of each one being a num gen, which is just a number generator. I was feeling particularly unimaginative with my names. So for instance, and this triple gets passed into this function here, this lambda here. So A, B, and C, where A is the first numgem, B is the second numgem, C is the third numgem. And here we write some test. We want it to be an expression of type Boolean. So this expression here that's highlighted, the add quote A expression of add quote BC is equal to add quote expression of add quote AB C. So that returns a Boolean because it's evaluating equality between the two sides. And this anonymous function that we have here that we're using in our property tests should always be evaluating as a Boolean. And you will get a type error if you try to do otherwise. So we will try running this, and then we'll try adding some code, and then we'll try adding some tests, or we'll try expanding our tests. I have to be a bit careful by trying to tiptoe around some of the fairly base level, shall we say, or common things that the property tests in the coursework are testing for, by not basically just creating verbatim unfinished tests that are in there. For instance, there's add associate property tests, but this is similar to the complex number one, which is included. So I'm not particularly fussed. So if we run the test, we can see that it's running the test. There's two tests. They ran two tests and blah, 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 and it was okay. So let's go up here and let's mangle this code. Oh, it's horrible. How can the world live with it? And if we run these tests, oh my God, it's ran two tests and they failed. So we can look. So we have two cases. We've tried two. None have had errors, which is good. Failures, 1. So 1 is failing. None skipped, none to do, no timeouts. So, which one has failed? So we go up here, we can say, oh, it's failed. So we can look here, the first test has failed. Add quote test 1. So if we here, this test has failed. So it's raised, blah, 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 not equal. So now we need to go back at our code and look and go, what's going on here? Why isn't it equal? So we go back in our code and we go, oh, well, we can actually try evaluating this in a REPL. Ooh, my REPL went down there. Oh, well. Well, that's why when we tried running, when we try running what the test is running in our unit test in the REPL, we get 1, not 0. That's bad. What's causing that? Well, it's obviously because we have this. So we can just kind of take that all out, and now we have this. And you'll notice that when we were running the tests, 2 tried, only 1 failed. So that means that our add associate, our property test down here, didn't catch the error. And that's because both sides would both be off by 2, because we have 2 add quote expressions on either side. So that's something to that's something to be aware of, is unit tests and property tests might pick up different things, and your property tests, if they're not exhaustive, might not pick everything up. So be careful. So we've corrected this error. So now we can go back here, we can run our tests, and everything's all good again. So let's say I want to add some unit tests. Well, we do this. Let's add another one. I have no idea what this test ctext thing is. I don't know. I never bothered to figure it out, but oh well. And we tried equals, and so equal takes in basically 2 expressions. It takes in the first expression, and it takes in a second expression, and they need to be the same. Boolean takes in 1 expression of type boolean, and it needs to be true. So if we were doing boolean, we would have to do something like this, which oh yeah, okay, so for booleans we need to write basically what's gonna happen. We need to write a short description. So like that. So what this is saying is this is the same as this, so this should evaluate to true. If we wanted to make sure that if we were trying to test that something evaluated false, so for instance this, let's quickly add this test. So when adding a test, everything goes to shit as soon as you try presenting. Okay, so we have these tests here, and then we run them. We've got one failing, this one, because this should be false. So we want to check that this is false. So what we can do here is wrap the expression in not there. And as you can see there, it runs fine. So that's how to basically write more tests. So for booleans, you need to write some string, which is basically just saying what's going on. And then you need to put an expression of type bool that will be checked to make sure it's true. For assert equals, you write two expressions. The first one is generally what you want to get out, so 0 in this case. And the second one is the expression that will be evaluated to make sure it's right. When you are writing a test, a unit test, to add it to the number of tests being written, you use the unit test list here. You put a string, which is the name. You do this funny thing here. And then you do the expression command there. And end it with a semicolon, but they should all be like that. Okay, so that's how you do unit tests. Now on to property tests. Writing a property test. So we will be writing a property test that our add function that we're using is the same as the built-in Ocaml add function. Okay? So for this, how many random variables do we need? No, okay, shame. Add same as plus. Okay, so this is the name of our unit test, what's written out when we run the test. This is the count of how many basically instances to run. Now we need to determine how we are basically making the things random. So we need to write our print. So I will actually before we get there, let's write the test first. So we are trying to make sure that add a b a plus b. So how many values are we getting into this? Well, it's only 2, so a and b. So if we're only having 2 a and b here, then that means that we're using a pair of integers. So we would be using show int 2 there. And we need to generate this pair. So you can look up the QCheck manual, the documentation to figure out all the different stuff, but generally you'll need pair, triple, and that's about it, to be honest. So pair, and then we use our num generator, our generator up here. So, and then do it again, and voila, and we don't get any more errors. And we have our property test. Fantastic. Now we need to add our property test to the list of property tests. So our property test is this one. So we add it like so. It is added. We don't need to do anything else. So we can now run our property test. Oh my God, it's failed. And as you can see here, it's failed. Cases 4 ran, 4 tried, errors none, failures 1. And it failed on this. It failed on the very first case with this pair here. Okay. So now we can go and we can look at our property test and say, why did this fail? So on here, it's because there's a failure with the property test, but in general, it would be because there is some issue over here with our code. Okay. I'm getting on in time, so I'm probably going to cut it here. But remember to commit your tests. But that's how you write unit tests. That's how you write property tests. That's what all the things in the unit test mean. That's what all the things in the property test mean. That's how you add new ones. So you basically add the function either property test using this format, or you do it with unit tests up here. Where am I? There I am. You do it with unit tests here. Using this funny little thing here, making your name, all of that jazz, and ending it with a semicolon. I don't know if that's important, but why not? Okay, voila.